It should be noted that this presentation is mostly catered to a Western audience trying to do business in China, since we are in Las Vegas, and that's the audience that we have in front of us today. And if there's any time afterwards, we'll leave some opportunities for questions. So why am I speaking to you? I am the VP of Global Sales at HasOffers by Tune. HasOffers is a white label performance tracking software. We have thousands of clients from around the world. I've been at HasOffers for 6 years. I was employee actually number 6, and we're over 350 people. We literally have offices everywhere from Tel Aviv to Berlin to Korea to Japan, multiple offices here in the US. And the reason is because we cater to an international market. I've had the unique experience that I've got to see what we've done successfully and what we've failed at in markets around the world. So I'm able to bring to you today a little bit about what works and what doesn't. It should be also noted, I'm in no way an expert on doing business in China. However, I definitely have experts on my team. We have multiple people at Tune focused on performance marketing in China. They speak Mandarin, they're from China, they're able to provide some of the feedback that we're going to speak about today. I mentioned that we have a white label affiliate tracking software. At Tune, we also have what's known as Tune Marketing Console. It's an SDK that goes into an app that basically helps a mobile CMO get every single piece of marketing information they would need about marketing a mobile app. And that product is also internationally used, so we are very unique in the fact that we play both on the demand side of the house as well as the supply side, so we have some unique insight. So China, what is the opportunity in China? First off, it's the world's largest smartphone market. It's gigantic, right? Basically, it represents almost 30% of all smartphone use on the entire planet. A lot of this also has to do with an emerging middle class in China. If you've ever listened to the news, you hear about this a lot. This means that many consumers are now accessing mobile devices. This is the first time that they're actually getting access to a mobile device in a lot of cases. And it also means that it's the first time they're going to be on the web or downloading apps. So a lot of what we're going to talk about today specifically is performance marketing in a mobile space. You can see here too that 2016 is projected that they're going to have an 8% increase in access to mobile devices, which means over 500 million consumers in China are going to be on their phone. So there's a great opportunity there. So not only is there a ton of people on a mobile device accessing the internet, wanting to be advertised to, we know that advertisers are also increasing their ad spend in China. You can see here that the US is currently, and for a while will still be the leader when it comes to mobile advertising, but China specifically is benchmarked to spend $22 billion with a B dollars this next year on advertising. So there's tons of people and there's tons of opportunity to get those people's attention with mobile advertising spend. And then we're also going to talk about there's very unique trends about Chinese consumers specifically. So on average, a Chinese consumer downloads about 40 apps per year. A lot of the information today was a study done by PricewaterhouseCoopers that basically compared China to the Western market. If we look at the Western market, on average, depending on the source you're looking at, they download 8 to 10 apps per year, right? So 40 versus 8 to 10 apps per year. Also, Chinese consumers are more likely to share personal data if in order to download an app or to get something from it. Western consumers hate giving away personal data. Their phone numbers, their addresses, where they're living, what they're doing is very protected. They don't want to share it. So what that means specifically in China is that freemium is king. It's more effective than even paid advertising. If you can have somebody submit something and give it to them for free in return, it's very effective. And lastly, 40% of Chinese consumers purposely engage with marketing. Again, if you contrast that to a Western market, 0% of Western markets or the US actually want to engage in marketing. If I'm on a blog and I'm looking at something and I see a pop-up or I'm getting advertised to, and if it's not specifically what I'm looking at, I'll close out. The Chinese market is a little bit different. They're okay engaging with these kind of creatives and these kind of ads. So what we know is there's a ton of people that are on a smartphone or a mobile device. We know that ad spend is going up, which is fantastic. And we also know that Chinese consumers are even more than Western consumers engaging in this kind of marketing creatives. They're more likely to download, mobile apps or whatever. That is fantastic news, right, everybody? Great. But with opportunity comes challenge. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so you cannot talk about advertising in China without talking about the firewall. The actual, the scaling the wall is the name of this specific topic, right? So when we talk about firewall, what does it really mean? It's also known as the Golden Shield. Essentially, it's a government-initiated project to basically limit Western influence on the net. So practically, what does that mean? It means basically limited access to Facebook, to Google, to Twitter, basically sites that are really effective and really popular and work really well if you're a performance marketer in the US or in Europe. You can't do that in China. What this also means if you're a mobile marketer, little to no effectiveness of the Google Play Store or the iPhone App Store. So what happens is we all of a sudden have a rise of the third-party app store, right? There's literally hundreds and hundreds of third-party app stores that if you are in China and you're on a mobile device, in order to get an app, that's where you're going. It should be noted there are savvy consumers out there that do VPN, do have an iPhone, and do access outside systems. That's, again, a lot of what we're talking today is kind of broad strokes. That's the exception, not necessarily the rule. So not only is there a technological difference, right? There's technology that's limiting the same way you're advertising. There's also just differences in the way culturally that different audiences and different companies think about each other. So trademark, for example, is different in China than it is here in the US. As an example, we had a client that was trying to launch their app in China on a third-party app store. They go to launch their app. Lo and behold, there's a very similar, practically exact same app already in the store. They don't own it. It's not their app, but it looks the exact same, and it's already in the marketplace. That's a little bit different than how things would work in the US. You would sue them. They'd go to business. It's a different issue. Also, when it comes to just the idea of transparency and pricing, in Europe and in the US and in the West, if you're signing a non-disclosure agreement, there's pretty good chance that I can pay out my publishers or affiliates a certain way, or I can get paid by an advertiser a certain way, and that's going to be secret. I could probably guess what other people are getting paid out, but that information is my information. It's probably not going to be shared. China that marketplace, from our experience, has been a little bit more flexible. Everybody seems to know how much everybody is getting paid, how much they're paying out, what they're charging, what the fee structure is. So transparency and pricing is a little bit more open in that society. Also, when it comes just to the importance of respect, hierarchy, and decision making. As an example, I was with the China team. We were in China, and we were pitching a client on using us as a back-end tracking technology. We were just trying to see if we were on the right track. We were basically asking the client, okay, is this going to solve the problems that you're running into? Is this the right solution for you? Is this going to be helpful? We don't want to waste your time if we're totally off the mark here. Are we in the right place? Even though the people in front of us were the technical decision makers, they were the ones that were there to tell us if this is going to work or not. They didn't feel comfortable giving us even an inkling if we were on the right path until their boss came in and said, yes, this is we're talking about the right thing. In the US, it would be different, right? You would be able to say, are we on the right path? And even if the person isn't the final person who signs the contract, would say, yeah, you're on the right path. And also, it's just been our experience as well when it comes to payments and contracts. Delayed payments, extended payments are the norm. Even if you have a net 30 terms, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be paid in net 30. There's also just been a difference in the way your value approach and your selling approach occurs. So there's a difference between cost over value. In China, the question is, how much does it cost? And then you find out the price, and then, okay, does it solve our problem? In the US, you would go, does it solve our problem? Then how much does it cost? Also, it can be very competitive for mobile marketers or even ad networks, driving mobile app installs just to compete. A lot of the devices will come with 30 to 40 apps already installed on it. So you're already having to compete for eyeballs against a device or a phone that's preloaded with multiple apps. And even though Chinese consumers are much more likely than the West to download an app. They're also much more likely to uninstall an app. So part of it has to do with the size of the device and that there's a limited space on there. But from a performance marketer, what it means is the re-engagement campaign might not be as effective as the install campaign because you're really competing for a limited space on the person's device. So what do we know now, right? We know there's an opportunity, and we know there's some big, very real issues if you're a Western company trying to do business in China that you're going to run into. So now what, right? How to scale the wall. So first thing you need to know if you are a marketer is that for mobile, like we said, because you can't do the Google Play Store, you're not doing an iPhone store, you need to use basically what's known as an APK or DDL. That's an Android package kit or direct download link. It's the way you have to advertise and the way you have to track in order to get an app installed on a device in China. So for a lot of the companies that we work to, again, we're a technology company, but we also try to act as consultants to our clients. It's not the easiest thing to get access to these third-party app stores. So what we've seen successful for our clients is that they've basically worked with companies that already have access to those stores. So partnering with somebody that's there before means you're going to have to split your payout a little bit, but it also means you're going to have easier access to advertise to that audience. We also talked about, okay, you can't advertise on Facebook, Twitter, Google, so where do you advertise? In China, there's really three kings, right? It's Baidu, Tencent, and Alibaba. There is an emergence of a product called Youku, which is like the Chinese version of YouTube, but pretty much those three, if you're going to do any kind of advertising, and I would say even us personally at Tune when we're trying to get eyeballs in China, we are going to these sources to advertise. What else can be helpful? So some other ways we've seen success is not only Western companies or ad networks or apps trying to advertise into China, we also have seen mobile apps in China trying to advertise to the West. So needing help to push to an international market. They want help, they want a bridge to get their eyeballs. So what's been most successful so far from advertisers from China on mobile devices advertising to the West? Really the most successful so far have been utility-based apps. So it's been the speed tester, the speed booster, it's been the battery lifesavers. Things that are helpful are the ones that are going to be most successful so far. Something else just to notice is that the payout seems to be different. So as far as like the percentage of payout. So if you're a Western company and you're trying to advertise your app in China using these third-party app stores, the percentage that you're going to have to give out of your pocket tends to be about 60%, whereas if you're a savvy app marketer in the US, it can be about 30%. Also something we've seen very successful when it has come to advertising to a Chinese market is pretty much mobile video and coupons are just killing it at this point. They have the highest conversion rate, they have the most interaction. It's like what you're gonna, if you wanna get the best eyeballs and make the most money, that's where we recommend spending sort of time, efforts, and money. And just lastly, there's a trend from our clients that are based in the region that there's a rise in mobile gaming. So as there's a growing middle class, it also means you get more casual gamers, and there's people are on their phone and needing to kill time. And if this is my in the next couple of years, if you're building an app or if you have an app where you should spend time and effort, mobile gaming in China, that will be successful. So we talked about the ways to make money, right? There's ways both from Western companies to help advertise into China, and there's ways that you can help Chinese companies also advertise to the West. So what does this mean, right? It means that there's things you definitely want to do, and then there's things that you definitely do not want to do. So we are going to start off with the do's. So if you're a company here and you're not based in China, you want to make sure you align your strategy and approach to the culture. Just the way you go about things, the way you approach things, it's going to be probably different than you're used to. You can't advertise in the exact same way that you have prior to now. It's really helpful when you're working with somebody new that you really clearly define and align expectations. I could say from Tune, some of the mistakes we made early on were expecting things to work the exact same way. We've learned now, whenever we're working in a new region, that we really clearly define the terms, what the deal is, how it works, and have that written out in paper so everybody can see it. It's also really a good idea to have dedicated resources that understand the norms of people and language. And this could be anywhere from, just an outside company, like I say, for our clients, we'll help kind of give them recommendations, or if you hire somebody. Like I said, at Tune specifically, we have a team of people that are focused on China in the region, that speak the language, that have lived there before, that know the marketplace. It's also, I think, a really good idea. This is kind of dumb, but just partner with an experienced team. There's definitely people that have done this before. So if you're a new company and this is a new kind of initiative you're going forth with, why not figure out what somebody else has done so you don't have to make the same mistakes? So do all those things. Lastly, what aren't you supposed to do? What are the don'ts? Do not use a Western approach to business development and sales. The pushiness, the calling, just don't do that. Don't assume that contracts, pricing, and just the things you're used to will work the exact same way. They're not going to. Do not disagree in a direct way. Respect, like I mentioned before, is very important, and the way you decide to disagree is also could be extremely rude if it's done in such a direct manner. Before you decide to localize, this is something that we've thought about for a long time at Tune, is do we open up an office specifically in China? And there's reasons why you should do that, and there's also reasons why you might not want to do that I'd be more than happy to discuss one-on-one after my topic here. And last but maybe not least is just making sure you're trusting people that have a background and a history and experience. One issue you could run into is working with fly-by-night companies or companies that don't have referrals or past, and that's the best way to get yourself into trouble. So what have we talked about, right? We've talked about there's a huge population, they're all on devices, there's a bunch of money to be made in marketing in China. We know that the Chinese consumer is more likely to interact with these kind of marketing initiatives, but we also know the problem is real. But with a real problem, with the right steps and advice, you too can scale the wall. Thank you. Any questions? Sorry, can you say that again, please? So I guess so B2B marketing in China, it really depends like what you're offering, right? So we're Tune specifically as a B2B marketer, right? So there's ways that we go about it. In the term of performance marketing, one way we have also seen our clients be effective is that instead of trying to go in, and advertise to a Chinese audience on their own, they'll partner with like an app. And if an app basically can install any kind of advertising content they want, and in that case, by already being within an app, you already get the eyeballs, you already get the, someone's going to be engaging with it, then you'll be successful. I don't think that answered your question, but I got my point out, so that's it. So I guess when you say B2B marketing, can you give me more? I'm not exactly sure what your question was. Yeah, I mean, what we did, we did it a couple ways, right? So the first thing we did was we showed up. Like we've gone to conferences, we were just there in person, right? I think a face-to-face is probably the best way that I would recommend going about it at first. And then we quickly realized that we didn't necessarily have the background and experience that was the best when we first started. So then we started to partner with some third-party agencies that have experienced advertising in China and targeting our kind of audience. So even at Tune, we were leveraging third-party relationships and agencies to get those eyeballs. And then once our foundation of clients grew, we ended up just hiring people that spoke the language, that lived there, that understand the audience, that can speak to that, both the differences when it comes to language and culture. And that's what's been successful for us is, we put our foot in the water, we got advice, and then eventually we've hired people on board to work with us. Any other questions? Great. All right, thank you.